Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Finance and Administration Committee here at the County of Renfrew on October 17th, 2024. It is 9:31 a.m., and I'm calling this meeting to order. As we gather today, we acknowledge on behalf of the County of Renfrew and our community that we're meeting on the traditional territory of the Omama Winini people. We thank the Omama Winini and express our respect and support for their rich history. We are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of Indigenous peoples who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. At this time, I'll ask Connie, has roll call been taken, please?
Through you, Chair, yes, roll call has been taken and we have quorum.
Thank you. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? I see none. Could I get a mover and a seconder that the minutes of the September 16, 2024 meeting be approved, please? Moved by Mayor Brose, seconded by Mayor Mayville. I don't know why I just did that. Were there any errors or omissions? All in favor? I'm off my game this morning. We have no closed minutes. We have no delegations this morning, so we will move right in to Mr. Kelly's report. Take it away, Craig.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning. My report begins on page 10 of your packages, and mostly information items today, but happy to once again bring you a quarterly report on the activities from the CAO's office. I'm not necessarily going to go into in detail. You do have it in front of you, but it was a busy third quarter. Obviously, AMO ate up a lot of the time throughout the summer trying to get those delegations set up and ready, as well as developing, of course, the procedural bylaw that's coming to you on October 28th at a special meeting, and of course, other conferences and items that have been discussed throughout the last few months. Of note, though, I'll point out the Heart Hub proposal, and thank you to all of my colleagues here and at PRH and all of our collaborative partners. The Heart Hub proposal for a mental health and addiction treatment center here in the County of Renfrew has progressed quite well for the purposes of this committee. The application goes in tomorrow, and there's been a heck of a lot of work on behalf of all the team. I'll call it the MESA team. That's gone into it, and we're hopeful that we'll have success in the future few weeks. And then, of course, the Warden's Caucus meets regularly, and happy to tell this group that the caucus is meeting in Calabogie tonight and tomorrow, as the County of Renfrew is hosting it for the first time in person for a number of years, actually, so we're proud to host it at Calabogie Peaks and the Redneck Bistro over the next 2 days. Item number 2 is a great piece of collaborative information as well. On October 9th, the RCCTA, the Clerks and Treasurers Association of Renfrew County, held their monthly meeting, or their semi-biannual meeting, at Bonnechere Manor, and just want a big shout out to Mr. Blackmore and his crew at Bonnechere Manor, who really treated us with respect and with kindness. And I know the group that was arranged, and again, thanks to Gwen, our clerk, for getting this arranged at Bonnechere Manor. The staff at the Manor walked all of your clerks and treasurers that attended through the beginnings of the butterfly model approach that's taking place at Bonnechere Manor, and just the facility. They're very impressed with county staff and the Manor staff particularly. So again, thanks to everyone for attending, and thanks for having us, Mike. Appreciate that. Item number 3 is an information item with no formal recommendation from my office, from the municipality of East Ferris, that seeks support to their resolution that would essentially combine both the Roma and AMO conferences into one singular annual conference. I'll leave that for your discussion and for your resolutions, should you wish to discuss it further with a motion. The next 2 items are business cases that saw them discussed at the Health Committee yesterday in long-term care. Just 2 business cases for increasing some worker hours in both food services and housekeeping, and the information is attached for your information. Item number 6 is a piece of information that went to Health Committee, but has some concern, I guess, with this committee as well in terms of the financial oversight is that the North Renfrew Long-Term Care is seeking that, well, I guess the background is, as written, is that the North Renfrew Long-Term Care Home has gone back and looked at their audited statements for the last 2 years, and there's a slight adjustment to that, and as such as asking the County of Renfrew to provide a revision amount to them to make those amounts whole or make them back to what they once were. So again, that information is there. It was discussed yesterday, and Mr. Burke can discuss it if you have any questions moving forward. Item number 7, again, was another information item that went to the Health Committee and is being brought to you for your information, is that the senior adult daycare program at Bonnechere Manor was increased by a little bit, and just there's a new agreement that was adopted yesterday that staff move forward with that and get that signed by County Council at the end of the month with Ontario Health. And item number 8, the final item, is just a list, as we've done monthly since its enactment, is a list of the delegated authority approvals that have been taking place for my office to look at. And these two are just extensions of lease space at Renfrew County Place with the Ministry of Infrastructure, and is in keeping with prior lease arrangements we had with the ministry. Chair, that is my report.
Thank you. All right, we'll go back to information item number 1, the quarterly report. Information item number 2, the clerks and treasurers meeting. Yeah, member from Killaloe, Haggerty, and Richards, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's a great idea that the clerks and treasurers are getting together so regularly. I think it's just awesome. From my standpoint, I was wondering, can we add more statistical data to come back to us, like comparatives throughout all the municipalities, just to give us a better idea what's going on amongst the 17 municipalities? Like, take, for example, health benefits, or, like insurance costs. All of our municipalities, our prices are going up, our costs are going up. Yes, we all have procurement policies that will get 1 or 2 additional quotes before we make a decision, but overall, even to the point of like a grader operator, his wage, what's the range, that type of thing. Just speaking for myself, I think that would be very useful once we're getting closer to budget time and, that type of thing. I was just wondering if that could be accommodated at all.
No, yeah, thank you, and through you, Chair. It's not often those items are discussed at these meetings, particularly, and not to say they couldn't. Your county clerk sits on the board, I guess if you want to call it that, I suppose, the association board, and can bring it up at the next meeting in terms of that. Just as an information item for you, though, is that the county fairly regularly, I'm looking to Mr. Belmore, regularly tracks wages from all the local municipalities, just because we do. I think some of the local municipalities are actually doing their own wage comparison at the moment. I know Laurentian Valley, and I think Whitewater was doing it as well. I think was looking at 2 different wage comparisons, and insurance rates is something I'm sure we could gather. So if directed, or if we need to do that, we could supply what we know. But in terms of information sharing, I can suggest to the group through my channels that we can add that as an agenda item to share that information as a shared service. Sure.
Can we add OPP increases?
Yeah, I think we're going to talk about that in a new business, but yes, yeah.
Thank you. Anything further? Yep, supplementary.
That would be great. And, and to the point of, I'm not trying to nitpick, but, like say a grader operator in one municipality compared to another municipality compared to the county. And yes, there's going to be major differences throughout because of population, et cetera. But just to give everyone a ballpark idea, and that's just one example, that type of thing. But thank you.
The other challenge, though, with our public works is that some of us are unionized and some aren't. Member from North Algona Wilberforce, please.
Thank you, Chair, and just through you to staff, I see that the Legacy Fund from the Ontario Winter Games, that there'll be more details coming forward in the future. I'm just wondering if this will be something that will be available to access in the new year.
Please.
No, thank you. Thank you for the question through you, Chair. So what the warden brought forward at that meeting, so now just a bit of a background. So there was $300-some thousand went to the Community Foundation, Ottawa Valley Community Foundation. There are a number of people that sit on that board and how it's going to be dispersed. Previous staff member Alistair Baird's now on the board. Peter's going to be, or the warden is going to be sitting on the board as an advisor on how to work with the Winter Games Fund in the next few years. What the ask was that day was that the local municipalities help distribute those funds to those groups. As I understand it, the foundation can't give funds directly to a person or a group, but the municipalities can because you have charitable status and nonprofit status. So the path forward, as suggested, I think they are still seeking feedback, is that there'll be an application process for a number of the different grant streams. So whether it's an infrastructure stream or a programming stream for a person or a group, that they will make application through the municipalities, and then the municipalities will pass that all along to the foundation, and then the foundation will score them and deliver the funds appropriately, and then funnel the funds back through the municipality to give to those people or groups. That's the path I understand it at the moment. The warden will be able to speak to it more clearly, but that's what I understand it to be. I think certain details are still being worked out, but this was a first blush at this because the foundation was just getting that cleared up when he brought this to the clerk's treasurers and was seeking feedback, and more information would be forthcoming when it's actually fully sussed out.
Sorry, anything further? Sorry, Val, I can't see you there. All right, moving on to number 3. Okay, go ahead, member from Amherst Bromley, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I note that this is an information item. I'm not so much of that as information, so much as perhaps staff felt agnostic as to the request and left it up to committee and ultimately council. I don't know if it rises to the level of recommending a resolution of the County of Renfrew, but in fact, I am opposed to this initiative, and whether it rises to the level of actually expressing that to AMO and Roma through a resolution of our own being in opposition to this. Very specifically why I'm in opposition to this is, and quite frankly, I think it's short-sighted. I think that there is a very specific intent behind the rural Ontario Municipal Association Conference and the Association of Municipalities Conference. The other thing that I think is both counterintuitive and in fact incorrect. It is the fourth preamble clause states, and whereas these conferences afford a vital opportunity for delegations with members of our provincial parliament, moving to a combined Roma-AMO conference provides a better respect to their availability and participation, and I cannot think of anything that would be more contrary to my own experience. There is almost full attendance both at the AMO, what is colloquially referred to as the bear pit session, but it is the open forum for question and answers of ministers of the provincial government at both AMO and Roma. So it's providing 2 opportunities in a year. One is just passed in August, one is coming up in January. So I think that it affords a much higher opportunity to have delegations. And the other thing I would say is the attendance at Roma is also substantially less, or it is lesser than AMO, that does incorporate all of the municipalities right across the province of Ontario, all of them except one, right across the province of Ontario. So in fact, I think that the likelihood of receiving a delegation at Roma-specific conference is probably higher than it is at AMO. So for those very reasons, I think that the intent behind the resolution is incorrect and overstated. The only element to the resolution that I actually am in support of finding, and once again, my perspective is simply to voice this through Warden Emo that continues to sit through the Warden's Caucus at the AMO board, but also to yourself as a member of Roma, is I really feel that there is, through COVID, we have developed substantial electronics. I think that at a much reduced fee, that these sessions be made available to those municipalities that even to travel to these conferences may be somewhat challenged. I think that if there was some means of affording a reduced rate to those, still, of course, monetized participation, but virtually, I really think that there's an opportunity for both AMO and Roma to do that, because I think there's a number of fantastic sessions, and I do note that typically these sessions are available for a short period after the conclusion or the adjournment of the conference or annual meetings. But it just affords a little bit more opportunity if in real time that they could somehow be made available as well. I think that there's opportunity. The very fact of this body itself, that is the council, now provides essentially unfettered access virtually. It seems that that's the realm we're in, and I think there's real opportunity here. So I'm on that element of this resolution. I think that there is much opportunity for both agencies to investigate and put some things in place. But outside of that, I am not agnostic. I am, in fact, in opposition to this motion.
As am I. Member from North, I'll speak about Roma when we get to me, but a member from North Algona-Wilberforce, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I would agree with my colleague from Edmundston Brumley. I'm in opposition of this as well. Just the fact that at Roma this year, the attendance was over 3,000 people, and some of the sessions, workshops were actually filled and the doors were shut and you couldn't get access. I can't see how combining the two conferences, unless there was much bigger spaces available, how you could improve on access to some of those workshops. And the other thing I certainly do agree with is when you're trying to book delegations, if you're combining both AMO and Roma, you have much less chance of actually securing a delegation. And if you do, you might be double booked on some. So I just think it creates more of a challenge and more confusion. And I like the fact that we have two opportunities to meet with some of the MPPs to talk about some of our specific issues. If you can't get it at Roma, sometimes you're successful at AMO. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? So I think the member from Edmundston Bromley sort of covered everything that I was going to say. I did make note of extending the time for people to watch online, or even maybe to participate, maybe not participate, but have them available live at a lesser fee. So I've made a note. I actually have a Roma board meeting tomorrow. So on top of OPP billing, I am bringing this resolution forward. I want to take you back a few months. This is the same municipality that wanted Roma and Ogra to get back together. So I'm not sure why they feel that AMO and Roma is a baby of AMO. Absolutely, we are the children of the bigger, broader 443 municipalities. However, our January conference is actually called Rural Roots. So I think if we even tried to do this, we would lose that rural voice. The whole purpose of Roma is to represent rural Ontario. So I am absolutely opposed to this resolution, 100%. And I do agree with my colleague from Edmundston Bromley that if need be, maybe we send a resolution saying that we are opposed. But I think that's for another day. So that's my little rant. But being a part of the Roma board, this is not going to go over well tomorrow. So Anyway, moving on. Business case for Miramichi Lodge, 4 and 5. Member from Amherst Bromley, please.
Sorry, by your leave, Madam Chair, this is actually, I just wanted to, for the record, because you had indicated that the municipality that has circulated this resolution was also seeking the combination. But as I'm reading this, they were in support of that resolution to combine Ogra and Roma from it was from another, from the town of Petrolia. The East Ferris did not originate the resolution of recombining OGRA and Roma. They were endorsing a resolution that came forward from Petrolia, and it is a slight difference, but I think for the public record, and perhaps even for your meetings tomorrow, East Ferris was not the generator. Essentially, they are not the municipality of combining conferences.
My apologies. We did not get the original resolution then. We only got the supporting one from East Ferris. My apologies. All right. Business case for food service workers and housekeeping 8 hours. Seeing none. North Renfrew long-term care, the home funding. Monashire Manor Senior Adult Program. And finally, delegated authority. Member from Amherst Bromley, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to perhaps Mr. Davis or Mr. Kelly, perhaps even get the whole gang, Mr. Burke. I just note, and when I saw the difference in the two of them, I actually went back to the D&P committee report. So I note that the first lease is essentially retroactive to April 1st of this year, but I see the second lease is retroactive to August 1st of 2.25 years ago. That is, you'll note that 136-24D is for a lease term of August 1st, 2022 to August 31st, 2027. So I'm kind of curious why both of these are being renewed now when one has been expired for some time. Now, I'm presuming, similar to what probably most of us at one time or another had as a lease on a residential property, it moved to a monthly, but it seems like a fairly lengthy term. I'm wondering, was that impacted by COVID, that we are only retroactively renewing the second lease to Infrastructure Ontario? Or not Infrastructure Ontario, but the Minister of Infrastructure?
Do you want me? All right. Thanks. Chair, through you, and thank you for the question. So the second one's a little bit easier. The first one, so leases obviously take time to negotiate. And the first one, the April 1st one, obviously had some time to negotiate. So by the time we were able to negotiate successful terms, or acceptable terms, it came to committee in September. Well, this month, October. The second one, there was a question about whether or not the province is obligated to pay property taxes, as we've been charging them property tax, or at least it makes it quite clear that they are obligated to pay property tax, or their portion of property tax within the lease. And it was a very, a couple-year debate back and forth between the province and ourselves whether that was in fact the case. Eventually they agreed that they would pay us for previous monies owed over the last few years on that, and this clarifies it moving forward, although there's still a bit of a disagreement, but I think we've got it clarified, I think, for the most part now.
We're just waiting on legal.
Just waiting on legal. Yeah, just waiting on legal right now to get back for us on that. But Mr. Davis may have further details, Councillor.
If I may, Chair, so through you, and yes, that was the crux of the issue of the delay. So about the taxation issue, and this predates Treasurer Burke. I think Mr. Foss was dealing with this a number of years ago, who would pay the taxes and the ramifications of that. So the province did not want to re-sign a lease until that was come to some sort of resolution, which we're now at a decent resolution, both for legal, and that's why you have that delay in one, and with the other one just expiring, it was just a carryover. So both leases have 3 terms, 3 extension terms, and both leases were exercised on those last 5-year term. So hopefully that provided a little more additional information, Chair and committee. Thanks.
Thank you. Supplemental.
Thank you, and thank you for the explanation. It does make sense. I'm presuming that all of the other tenancies, including the second one to the Ministry of Infrastructure that is cited herein, are in fact part of the lease agreement is that the tenant pays the property tax. Is that correct? So that we are consistent across our leaseholds?
And looking at Treasurer Burke just to make sure, but yes, so we're being consistent with the Ontario leaseholders within 450 O'Brien.
Final question on that, but then there's a housekeeping point that I'd like to raise afterwards. So ultimately, because these are both being renewed, and I'm presuming that the escalation is predicated upon when the actual expiry of the lease, because these are both renewing on the same date, even though the terms are different, but the actual square footage rate is different too. Now, I don't know what factors may have entered into the negotiations. I'm not sure if there's a particular spot in the building, whether the second floor is at a lesser rate than the lower floor. I have no idea what may be behind these. Was there any consideration of aligning the lease rates, particularly as it's the same tenant for both leases? Now, of course, there is only an overlap for 3 years, but on my calculations, it's a difference of about $16,000 over the differentiated lease rates, ultimately to the same lessee, or lessor, rather.
Through you, Chair. So looking at this one, if you looked at the September DNP report and the memo that was provided to the committee at the time, there are different square footages for sure. The actual cost per square foot, there is an escalation clause to answer one of your questions previous. So we do have an escalation clause within the next previous 5 years. I think it's around 3%. And unsure if the cost per square foot is exactly the same, but it should be very similar. And maybe I could lean on Mr. Burke on that one just because of the history of these two leases. Okay.
Well, through you, Madam Chair, we can look into that and get back to you. I don't have the lease offhand.
I do. It's about a 2.5% difference across the two distinct leases. What I did is even went back to the report to DNP of Tuesday. And anybody that sits on DNP has it available to them. Anybody that doesn't, that's unfortunate. So, of course, there is only a 3-year overlap because one of the 5-year terms is retroactive. But for 2024 through 2025, the retroactive lease is about $1 a foot more than the lease commencing. And that continues over the course of the same 3 leases. That's why I'm suggesting based on the square footage, based on the 3-year overlap, and I actually extrapolated it as if it was to match 5 years, it would be a difference of about $15,000. Now, I don't know if there are different spots at Renfrew County Place that would be perceived as higher value than others. And I recognize that one lease actually is retroactive, being complicated by the fact that they are both being signed and agreed to at the same time. But when the lessor is the same, when the lessee is the same, and there's different rates, I'm just wondering if there was an opportunity to have combined, or I'm imagining that what might explain this, even the retroactive date, the renewed rate may have simply been the escalation of where they left off because of an imbalance. But I just thought it might have been an opportunity to have combined or had a common rate. Ultimately, it seems that as the lessor, we would have an interest in consistency in that regard as well.
Yeah, for sure, and through you, Chair. So we'll look into this to make sure we have the exact numbers you're looking for. But looking back in the history, even in my mind's eye, where these two leases, I don't think they were signed at the same time. So 1 year could have been different when we negotiated the very first lease with these individual organizations. So, and that could just carry on from year to year and from the extension to extension. So I assume that is the issue, but we'll look into that, Chair.
It may be worth saying, Chair, and not to help out at all, just adding more context. There is no, I mean, there's 5 leases, I think, in this building, 5 or 6 leases, plus the OPP across the street. When negotiated, I think Infrastructure Ontario wasn't, they were kind of over here. They was all negotiated with different ministries and different partners. Infrastructure Ontario is now the main oversight body for them all, which wasn't the case back in the day. But there are 6 leases, 6 different rates, you know, from the daycare right through to the latest lease that we signed with Family Children's Services. No, it's Victim Services upstairs, right? So there's not one singular rate. It's negotiated based upon the market at the day.
If I may, that's ultimately where I'm going. Had the retroactive lease been renewed at the date of the expiry, this conversation wouldn't be happening. But that lease wasn't agreed to then. It was agreed to essentially in a contemporaneous with the lease that just expired. And it just occurred to me that would have been an opportunity to have brought into alignment the lease rates, because ultimately, and you can rest assured these are the precise numbers, you will find them. They're in a spreadsheet, you see. In the first year, the delta is 85 cents, in the second it's 87, in the third it's 89. And those were the ones I zeroed in on, that if in fact the lease for the smaller amount of space, the retroactive, had been concluded, I wouldn't be doing this. But when you're signing 2 different leases at the same time in the same building to the same tenant, ultimately a landlord, also presumably on behalf of the government of Ontario, it seemed an opportunity to have brought those into alignment, and that's what I was doing. On the housekeeping, you will note, and it's not in the bylaw itself, but both memos that were attached to this, the last line of the term are typos in both of them, oddly. They are restating years, so the memo itself that was signed beginning with Mr. Raditz and working its way up, you'll note that the final of the 5th bullet point of each of them has typos within them. So that should just clean that up a little bit. Anyway, thank you.
Member from North Algona Wilberforce, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just to follow up on the the specific leases, but good news going into budget that all of the vacant space at Renfrew County Place is now rented or leased. Thank you.
That is good news. Thank you. Anything further on 8? The report as a whole. Can I have a mover and seconder, please, to accept the report as a whole? Moved by the member from Brudenell, Lindock, and Raglan, seconded by the member from Abbotston Bromley. All in favor? Carried. All right. Mr. Burke, take it away.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, committee. Only 2 information items on today's report. The first item is just an update on the 2025 budget. We have our budget schedule moving ahead. Corporate Services have internally developed their budget, and we'll be meeting with all other departments over the next few weeks to develop a comprehensive budget. Just want to point out Monday, October 28th, the special meeting, we are planning for an update to our asset management plan and long-term financial plan. So it should make for a busy day with a number of decisions coming out of that. And again, I would offer, similar to what we did in May, if there's anyone who desires to see something specific or know about a specific project or a specific funding option, just let us know and we can certainly have that workshop together or have the information at hand prior to the meeting. Item number 2 is just an information item for the tax policy working group meeting that was held on September 26th. And the presentation is attached. This is the group that is comprised of myself and all the lower tier treasurers. And this is where we decide the ratios, the tax ratios, which in a 2-tier municipality is held at the upper tier. So the ratio of residential to other property classes. So a very good meeting and well attended. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we get that note out to all of County Council, please, for the 28th? Just to make sure that everybody understands if they want something. Yeah, just what Daniel just said, get it out to all of County Council, and then just to make it a little more efficient, I think.
It's to you, Chair. So yeah, we're just working on, or Mr. Burke's just working on the PowerPoint right now and some other background information. So when that background goes out, I think that recommendation will be in there as well. Just like it was last time.
That's why you're the CAO. All right, anything on number 1? Anything on number 2? Member for Bamiston Bromley, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Through you to Mr. Burke, this is with respect to the slide presentation, the PowerPoint presentation for committee. You'll find the first slide is the top one on page 34 of today's agenda report. I've spoken on a couple of occasions to the on-farm business subclass, and I note in the 4th bullet point therein, the recommendation or the standing recommendation of the Tax Policy Working Group is that this subclass not be adopted. So I understand that you will find 2 slides later with the small business subclass overall. The rationale is provided of why the recommendation is such. I know that in both instances prior, when I have brought this forward, the suggestion or the rationale was that there were very few actually that are within this tax class. And I'm not persuaded that that unto itself is substantial. If you are in that subclass, it has a substantive impact, regardless of how many there would be, and the province has made this available. So I'm curious, so with respect to the small business subclass as opposed to the small scale on-farm business subclass, it is suggested that the small business leads to a pretty substantive administrative burden in identifying and keeping your listing of the eligible properties. And certainly if there is a substantive burden to the on-farm business subclass, I would understand that too, but is that the rationale? Because it is not provided in the PowerPoint presentation.
Through you, Madam Chair. No, this class is, these properties are identified by MPAC, so it's essentially the same as any other property. There's not a great deal of burden in adopting this subclass. One of the reasons why myself and my peers struggle with the rationale we haven't adopted this in the past is now the time to make a change, and the reasons why or why not. We really struggle to understand that as to why we shouldn't adopt that, and that was part of the rationale behind really conferring with our colleagues in economic development. Is this an advantage to those property holders? Because it does involve shifting a tax burden in the County of Renfrew primarily onto the residential property tax class. However, given the size of it, it's, what you're shifting is very small. But we really struggle to understand why or why not, we should or shouldn't adopt this, and what would be a good criteria for this tax class or things similar to it. And we're really at a standstill. So I think out of the meeting, in the meeting minutes, I think that the Township of Laurentian Valley and Whitewater and one other, we're going to do a sort of a deep dive and speak to the property owners themselves possibly, and come out with I guess a recommendation that way. But really, again, we haven't adopted it in the past, somewhat indifferent to adopting it going forward because it's not a large burden. Certainly not for me. There's a bit of a software configuration on the lower tiers, but yeah.
I'm from my perspective, I'm careful about describing the size, and that's why I am very careful of how I approach this, because I think that a rationale for doing this is because it wouldn't transfer much of a burden onto the residential. I don't think that that is persuasive, nor is it persuasive that it shouldn't be brought in because there's only a few property owners. The reason that I'm bringing this forward is increasingly the agricultural sector is embracing value add. And in some instances, the province does provide for certain uses of the farm that are still going to be considered farm uses that aren't commercial. But it is a growing trend of on-farm business. Now, that's why I would be careful even of approaching the current folks that necessarily would benefit today, and have the deep dive perhaps through the economic development department here at the county of what is the projection, what is the potential for ultimately for development, because ultimately this is almost similar to a CIP, a community improvement plan. This is an added element to throw into the mix that might actually increase commercial activity in the county of Renfrew on a commercial sector that is just beginning. It is nascent, the growth of on-farm commercial activity. So I'm thinking more so from the perspective of economic development rather than individual operators that currently could benefit or the potential for the residential class to be impacted by the transference. Is part of the mix, part of the tools that our economic development department has, is if approached from the ag sector, this is yet one more tool that they can say, here's an added element that may help to sway the decision. And that's why I'm certainly open to, and I thought that was great that the discussion was referred to the Economic Development Division. I'm presuming that no response has heretofore been received. But I'm not persuaded that the arguments of not doing it because there's only a few number, or even doing it because it's not shifting much of a burden, are terribly persuasive. But I am looking at this from the perspective of economic development.
Is that? Hang on, they're caucusing. Jason, I think.
Through you, Madam Chair, yeah, I believe we were just talking about the agricultural forum is next week, and we do have the County Renfrew Agricultural Economic Development Committee as well. So we are looking at it.
That's where it should go.
Thank you.
Awesome. Anything further? Member from Amherst Bromley.
Sorry. Again, on page 37, this is more just to correct the record. And if this was displayed for lower tier staff, just being very careful, the third bullet point is inaccurate. We're not considering a countywide CIP. We can't have a CIP, period. We spent a great deal of time discussing this at the last county council meeting. We do have a regional RIP.
Worst acronym ever.
And in fact, the regional incentive plan is not countywide. It is, in fact, only in the overlap where a community improvement plan currently exists. And quite possibly that was conveyed to staff, but because there was a lengthy conversation and debate surrounding that at County Council, I just want to be accurate moving forward. I have always found it to my detriment that it is much more work to unwind misinformation than to provide correct information. And if I may, just...
Yeah, I was just going to say that was a good catch because I have a CIP. So when I read the presentation, I blew right past it. I wasn't even thinking because I'm one of the ones that could utilize this. So go ahead.
You are a have, I am a have not. The next one is, there is, and I struggled a little bit with this, but the slide at the top of page 38, the very bottom bullet point says, plan to divert growth revenue to a new growth reserve. And the slide on the top of page 39 says weighted CVA growth revenue diverted toward the existing capital reserve. So, as I understand it, it is the former, not the latter. I think that council has actually approved by resolution that real growth, what is referred to here as CVA growth, what we commonly refer to as real growth, which has heretofore been utilized to address capital requirements in our corporate asset management plan, in fact, now is going to be allocated specifically to growth pressures within our act. So it appears to be still suggesting it's going to be continuing as it has been, but also suggesting it's going to change. So those two are in conflict. The final one, I think it's the final one, no, two more. The top slide on page 41 is referring to other issues, and it's just talking about the deadlines for the payment of the collected taxes. And I'm wondering what the issue was here. Seems fairly straightforward. I think these are quarterly installment payments.
Through you, Madam Chair, I always just like to leave this in as a prompt to remind my colleagues that when they send through a payment, they typically adjust the amount that I would estimate it would be, either for new builds, demolitions, that type of thing, supplemental omits, and I just like to prompt them to let me know what the reason for the adjustment was, rather than make me call them and figure it out myself. So that's all that is.
We do the same thing in Bonnechere Valley.
Okay, thank you. The final question that I had on the slideshow, and it is at the bottom slide on page 41. And in fact, it is the bottom paragraph. And I'm just kind of curious. This paragraph seems to be suggesting that the POA fine revenues are shared with the lower tiers, but I don't think that's accurate, is it?
So through you, Madam Chair, this is a snip of the original agreements that were negotiated when POA was downloaded in 2000. So we had, at the time, I believe, with the download of POA, the option to have it shared amongst the lower tier municipalities, and went through quite a negotiation, which with all the lower tiers at the time, there was more than there is now. And yeah. And each of them did eventually agree to allow the POA to retain the revenue at the upper tier, and signed a bylaw to that effect. So just amongst my peers, one of the questions coming back to me lately because of the automated speed enforcement is, how do I get some of this money at my local level? And the answer is, well, when the original setup was done, it was decided to leave this at the upper tier and use it to reduce the upper tier levy. So that's all that is. That's a snip of the original county council package or letter from that time.
Supplementary.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you through you to Mr. Burke. And that, not precisely, but that was what I had considered may have been the answer. But as many of us that have been in municipal for quite some time, you'll recall our municipal partnership funding routinely from the province used to tell us what kind of benefit we were getting from what the province uploaded back up to the provincial treasury, and on and on and on. So it's worth keeping in mind that we were allowed at the time of upload-download to have continued to share in these. But the very benevolent lower tiers felt that there was value in us providing this subsidy to the upper tier or county of Renfrew, and that they retain that share. So in fact, the county is still benefiting from the lower tiers assigning our share, if you will, to the upper tier treasury.
And funny that you bring that up, because I wrongly assumed that when we have ASE, that there will be a portion going to the local tier, and now I'm getting a no from our CAO. Glenn, I see you online. Did you have a question?
No, I did not.
Okay.
No problem. Thank you.
I was given faulty information. Thank you. All right, and the report as a whole. May I have a mover and seconder, please, to adopt it? moved by the member from Killaloe, Haggerty and Richards, seconded by the member from Laurentian Hills. All in favor? And that carries. Before we go on to HR, we're just going to take 5. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. And now we will turn this over to Mr. Belmore with his Human Resources report. Take it away, Greg.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, committee. Attached in the HR report, information item number 1 is a list of our 2024 Service Award recipients and retirees. A celebration of these milestones will be taking place Thursday, November 21st, 2024 at our second annual County Renfrew Staff Appreciation and Service Awards event, taking place at Festival Hall, starting at 6:30. Registration is requested online, so we have an idea about numbers for catering and to ensure we have space in the hall. You don't actually have to bring any tickets, though, so it's available online right now for folks to register. An email was circulated with the link. We're looking forward to having Carla Collins headline the event for us this year. Information item number 2. Yesterday, a number of HR staff and county staff attended Algonquin College for a municipal career fair at the Pembroke campus. This was led by the Renfrew County Clerks Treasurers Association in concert with Jamie Bramberger at the campus, where we had staff from Deep River, Pembroke, ourselves, Whitewater, the Clerks Treasurers Association, Killaloe, Haggerty, and Richards, all present to provide students an opportunity to learn about municipal government as a career path for them, not necessarily any specific position, but in general, the career opportunities that exist in municipal government. And I'll say we did have good success at the county in reaching out and communicating with as many students as we saw wearing scrubs for PSWs, RPNs, and RN positions. We talked to every one of them that was in the facility, so we're working hard to address staff shortages. Number 3, sort of on the same vein, co-op students. So we are excited to host a number of high school co-op students right now and across the county. There's at least one in every department, if not more. There's a number of them working in this building right now. So we're continuing to develop our relationships with the high schools and work forward to welcoming another group next semester. And the 4th item is Local Government Week. So we'll be hosting an open house next Monday, October 21st from 3 until 6 p.m. as part of Local Government Week. This event is going to showcase all of the departments within the county for our residents, our staff, members of council and committee, and family members, and everybody's welcome to come out to learn about what the county actually does, because a lot of people aren't sure of that. We're also going to host a Touch a Truck event. We're going to have paramedic vehicles, public works vehicles, DNP vehicles there, along with not just like our sort of council municipal day that happened on September 26th. We're going to have more employees and boots on the ground type folks there able to speak to residents and anyone that attends about what we actually do in all of our different departments. You know, it's great to hear from Director Blackmore about things going on in long-term care, but he's generously located some good ambassadors, registered nurses, and PSWs that will be present to give you an account of what actually goes on day to day in their lives and roles, because it's also sort of a dual purpose. We're having a career fair the same day. We have a number of open positions and continually open positions, so we'll be trying to attract any new talent and show students as well, because we're inviting the students to come, about the different career opportunities again. Hopefully get some high school students to arrive so that they can help make informed choices that are they have to apply for school in the next month or so for next year, so they can help choose the appropriate educational stream that could land them a career in municipal government. And Madam Chair, that's
very nice. Okay, we'll go back to information item number 1, the 2024 Service Awards. That's a lot of years you've got on that list. Number 2, the career fair. Oh, member from Madison Bromley, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And I just when we were on break, I inquired of Mr. Blackmore how long since the new Miramichi Lodge, and he advised it was 2005. So you will look at the Miramichi Lodge folks, and I think that beginning with Mr. Langlois and Ms. Morrow, they spent as much or more of their career at the old Miramichi Lodge than they have at the new, notwithstanding that it's 19 years since the redevelopment of Miramichi Lodge beside the Ottawa River. So that is true dedication that you are seeing there. Between those two, in fact, you're looking at 80 years of service to residents and ultimately to ratepayers of the County of Renfrew as well.
They started when they were 12. Thanks for that. Number 2, the career fair. Fairs, sorry. Number 3, the co-op students. Member from North Algona Wilberforce, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you to Mr. Belmore. I'm kind of curious. So the students that you were able to engage with, is there any awareness that there are these opportunities available in municipal government, or is this new information for them?
Thank you for the question, and through you, Madam Chair. I would suggest many of them aren't aware of the opportunities that exist in municipal government, which is, one of the things we're hoping to address, beginning with our open house on Monday. We also spoke at the clerk's treasurer's meeting that occurred, that the CAO brought forward in his report about initiatives to try and get into the high schools in front of careers classes to advise students about the opportunities that exist here. We'll continue with the college. It's not too late to get someone when they're already in a program in college, but if we can influence them at the high school level to, choose the appropriate path forward to land in a municipal environment is great. We're also hoping, and it was a suggestion that came out of the clerk's treasurer's meeting, is to see if we can engage with the guidance counselors and co-op counselors. So instead of even speaking to the students, a lot of the people that counsel the students aren't even aware of the opportunities that exist in municipal government. So if we can get out there and advertise and flaunt municipal careers as a really great place to be, that we can hopefully influence more students to come and do co-ops here and lead down the line to future employees.
When we get to, so the 3 and 4 are kind of combined here, even with James's questions. So I'll tell you something when we get to number 4, but go ahead, you've got a supplementary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I like the idea of the strategy of engaging the guidance counselors. I think it would even be worthwhile to have a conversation with the new Director of Education for the Renfrew County School Board, knowing that she does originate from a more rural environment. So I think it would be, and maybe the director from the other school boards as well, to make them aware of some of the opportunities.
Thank you for that. Anything further on 3? So number 4, Local Government Week. So AMO has recently stood up a Healthy Democracy Initiative, and we're actually looking at, like through Roma, we're actually looking at even younger than high school. So last Friday, Bonnechere Valley put on our first youth summit. So I used to go out to the schools for grade 5 civics or social studies, whatever they call it now, and grade 10 at Opeongo. I haven't done it in years, of course, because of COVID. And so I asked staff to put together a youth summit day that would include 8 to 14, geared to 8 to 14-year-olds. If you were 7.5, that was fine. If you were 15, it was fine. But it was so interesting, and AMO actually sent a representative from the Healthy Democracy Project to see what we were doing, and it's actually the first of its kind in Ontario, so I'm very proud of that. But Sarah, my community development officer, had a jam-packed day, 9 o'clock to 4 o'clock, like it was jammed, where the kids sat and learned about things in the municipality. And then they would do programming that included communication, how you communicate, team building, all sorts of very interesting projects that were hands-on. So the one kid held a photo of an elephant, but the other kids didn't know it was an elephant, and they had to build this Lego by the one kid saying, okay, take the flat gray piece of Lego and put it down. And they built this elephant just from him explaining, no, not that piece, the black square piece. It was so interesting to watch. 2 8-year-olds, a 9-year-old, and 2 12-year-olds that were on one team, how they communicated. And then Sarah took them through a budget, a community development budget, and they had to decide what was important. Was the newsletter important? were fireworks important? Were bouncy castles on Canada Day important? And it was amazing to watch these kids go through a budget. So I asked them, so they want a skate park, and they had $3,000 designated to the skate park. And I said, well, what happens if the skate park is more than $3,000? And one of the kids very astutely said, then we put it away and we budget for it the next year. And I said, do you know what putting that away is? And he's thinking and he's thinking and he's thinking. And he said, no, I don't know what it's called. And I said, it's called a reserve. And all the kids went, oh. So it was so fun to watch them and really grasp, like being on municipal council, being staff. And then we had one of our incredible youth who is now going off to university this year. She came and spoke to them about what it means to be a good leader and how you attain good leadership. And the kids just hung on her every word. So it was a really amazing day when you're catching them even younger than high school. And to James's point, like engaging these schools is number one right now, no matter what the kids want to go into. But I think that Youth Summit certainly spoke to how we can absolutely engage these kids and grow them into good, healthy leaders in whatever they do. So that was my experience. It was very cool. So apparently Bonnechere Valley's putting on a dog show next year. So just, think about that. Low cost, lots of fun. It was the kids' idea. Oh, and one of the kids guessed off the top of his head that there are 17 municipalities in the county of Renfrew. And I said to his father, he must have read that somewhere. You don't just guess 17. That's just too random, right? Anyway, that's my little story. Okay, the report as a whole. May I have a mover and seconder, please, to adopt the Human Resources Report? Moved by the member from Laurentian Hills, seconded by the member from North Algona-Wilberforce. All in favor? And that carries. And now we're on to new business. Craig?
Thank you, Chair, and I suppose apologies for not including this. There was a bit of an email chain this morning between a couple of representatives of County Council and myself, and felt it appropriate given conversations that have occurred over the last few days at different committees and in the hallways. There is also a conversation happening at the Warden's Caucus meetings tomorrow, and at Roma. Thank you.
I'm going to bring it forward at Roma.
Thank you, Chair. So what's occurring, again, this is not a county council, or it's not a County of Renfrew issue as a corporation, but it's a County of Renfrew issue as a municipality, is like water and wastewater rates, as what we're hearing is the increased billing costs for the OPP. We're hearing from municipalities within Renfrew County and across Eastern Ontario, and I'm supposing it's probably across all of Ontario for those that have an OPP contract, that the billing rates have increased somewhere up to, and now apparently north of 20% this past year.
I'm 22.85.
There you have it. So I bring this forward in terms of from your councillor Neil Nicholson to bring it up today and seeking direction, at least a conversation to be had on whether this is something that you want staff to do slight research on and bring it forward as a piece of advocacy on behalf of all of you. Again, it's not something that we've ever been engaged with, but in terms of advocacy, we like water, wastewater rates. We can definitely be a collaborative partner in advocacy moving forward, as we understand that your pressures lead to pressures delivering the services, your other services that you deliver to the residents of Renfrew County. So, Chair, that's a conversation starter, and I'll leave that as new business.
Thank you. So I don't know if everybody's seen it, but the warden has sent out a request that every municipality send their dollar increase percentage and what it means on your levy. So I've done that already, and what I've done is I've asked the warden when he gets all of those. He's at EOWC tomorrow presenting. I'll be at Roma presenting as well. So hopefully that will start some advocacy across the Eastern region and Roma. I believe that much like water and wastewater rates, this actually affects every municipality in the county, not just those of us with water and wastewater. And I believe that it's imperative that we advocate on behalf of our citizens. There has been the idea that they re-upload all of the OPP costs. I just want to caution that the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund, that was given to us to partially fund the OPP. So I would caution very strongly that this could mean a severe decrease in the OMP funding. So again, unless they want to increase our funding from the province to make this more manageable, that's sort of the road that I think we should advocate for. Increase the partnership fund to a point where it's manageable for us to take on the rest on the levy. That's just my thought. Are you Craigging me, or is it real this time?
I'm just suggesting Mr. Doncaster may have a question. I see his camera was turned on, and I know that Deep River is a bit of an outlier because they do have their own police force as opposed to OPP.
Oh, you're right. Sorry, it only affects 16 of us, not 17. Go ahead, Glenn.
Yeah, thank you for that. This is not unlike the situation that arose across the country with the negotiated RCMP contracts. And included in that was, I believe it was 2 years of retroactive pay that no municipality had even budgeted for. So FCM took that on because it went across the country, but they've included cost-effective policing, really to include Ontario into those conversations. So once we go down this road, I would certainly copy in FCM on everything, and I'm sure we're going to hear more of it from the Ontario caucus at FCM also. But and as I've said before, Deep River is willing to step forward and provide some services to other municipalities in Renfrew County. But having said that, we have increased costs also. I'm not sure to the extent of what you just, or what the chair just mentioned, but our costs continue to go up also.
Thanks for that, Glenn. You were a little fuzzy there for a moment. Did you say that the RCMP were 2 years retroactive pay? Is that what I heard?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And like who budgets for that? The municipalities weren't included in the negotiations.
Wow. Okay. Thank you. Member from Killaloe, Haggerty and Richards, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, on our first document we received from the OPP, there was 2 years retro being put in. We had questioned that, and now we got our billing for next year, and we're up 38%, $160,000. So, but I'll forward that to Peter once I get home.
Okay, thank you. Just so you're aware, what I did was it was 750, now it's 904, which is 22.85% and about 4% on our levy. But what I did was I included my CAO just to make sure that my numbers were actually accurate, and not sort of willy-nilly. So I would recommend that everybody include their clerk or CAO to make sure that they're accurate. But 38%, that is absolutely unreasonable. So are you asking for a resolution to send this to County Council to ask if this is something across the board that they would like us to advocate? I'm thrilled that it's going to the caucus, it's going to Roma. I'm assuming also the warden will take it to AMO, but I think more important, the Solgen has to be involved in this.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. In terms of, as we know, every council member has a right to put a notice of motion forward, and it takes some time to work through it, or the committee acts as a notice of motion to county council, as you all know. So if by your leave, if there's a motion that the Finance and Administration Committee directs county council or suggests to county council to include OPP billing as a matter of advocacy.
Yes.
And then at least puts it on the floor at county council at the time.
Sorry, I didn't know if you were looking at staff direction to see if this was worthwhile or if you actually wanted us to forward it.
I think in terms of, if I could, to you, is that the council member that was talked about this, and as we've heard again in the hallways and otherwise, as a council, I think this is an item that deserves county council, because you're together, to chat about it at the appropriate time.
Okay, so I'll move that. No, I'm kidding. Member from Amherst Bromley, did you want to move that?
I'd like to speak generically to the issue first. I'm certainly sensitive to the most recent conversation. It is not precisely ultra vires the county of Renfrew. The county of Renfrew does not provide policing, is not engaged in policing, yet this room, council, is a forum for something that collectively operates right across the county of Renfrew, saving and accepting, of course, sensitivity to Councillor Doncaster that does have their own police force. Certainly it is something that we are connected with, or at least there is somewhat of a feedback loop, and this is why I have repeatedly been making reference to what is happening with the Provincial Offences Act number of fines being levied. I've also brought forward, not the documents, but certainly have informed council of the auditor's reports for the years 2021 and then the follow-up that was performed afterwards that are showing a substantial deficit of actual services being provided into municipalities than what were contracted and billed and arranged for municipalities. In fact, at its worst case, I think from a base cost perspective, the auditor's report might have suggested that there were low double-digit number of municipalities that were not receiving or receiving, I think, less than 30% of what they had been contracted for. On top of that, I just brought up, and I'm quite certain that all of council will have seen this at one time, well, over the course of the summer, I'm sure. Each of us outside of Deep River received this letter dated July 23rd from the Municipal Policing Bureau, wherein it cites the collective agreement with the OPPA, the Ontario Provincial Police Association, wherein the retroactive increase for 2023 is 4.75%, for 2024 is 4.5%, and 2.75% for the years 25 and 26. Additionally, effective September 1st, 2024, many OPP detachment frontline constables and sergeants will be receiving an additional 3% frontline patrol premium. I also, just while this conversation was going on, pulled up the most recent OPP annual report, which is for the 2022 fiscal year, calendar year perhaps, but fiscal year at least. Municipalities are now contributing 28, or for 2022, 28.7% of the budget for the OPP in Ontario is provided by municipalities. I'm fairly certain that we had no seat at the table when the contract negotiations were happening. In fact, I had intended, when I had seen this letter, though it was during the summer recess, and it had slipped my mind, of bringing forward that, at the very least, I think that perhaps through AMO, there might be a representative might sit on it, similar to, I believe AMO represents the municipal sector on MEPCO, that is the oversight body for the OMERS pension. It seems that when we're approaching 1/3 of the total budget of the OPP, it doesn't seem unreasonable that we be sitting at the table. Like some of the mentions here, our police bill is up 22% in 2025 over the current year, over 2024. At the same time, because I sit at this table, I am quite aware of the dramatic decline in fines being levied, and as you will recall, Ms. Wilton has identified that the Highway Traffic Act violations are the lion's share of that percentage diminishment in the number of fines being levied. I bring in again the Auditor General's report, and I question, what are we actually receiving? What kind of input do we have into this? And it is a sole source supplier that we are now just unfortunately in a position of taking that. Like the concern that's been expressed in a couple of emails earlier this morning, I am of a mind that that this is not dissimilar from bait and switch. We never had a police force in the township of Admast and Brumley, but I'm wondering how many municipalities may be ruining. There may be some ruining going on those who actually did dissolve their own police forces, through which they actually were afforded much more input into community policing, et cetera. So I am certainly sensitive, where I started, that this is not a county of Renfrew, that is the municipal corporation of the county of Renfrew. Though there are instances where I think, as opposed, as Mr. Kelly has correctly pointed out, notice of motion is an avenue whereby any councillor can bring forward a matter that would not otherwise come in front of county council. Likewise, this committee, I believe, would have authority to direct staff primarily from a research or perhaps even advocacy basis, even though this is outside of the purview of the county of Renfrew, that I think that this would be appropriate. This is unsustainable. It is untenable. Finally, what I would suggest to you, Madam Chair, is I'm not sure if one carefully reviews the formula for the Municipal Partnership Fund. As I've indicated, the province in 2013 quite openly said we're not paying anything anymore towards the Farm and Managed Forest Tax Program, and then they instituted a token effort at that. I am given to believe that there might be a substantial divorce from the Municipal Partnership Fund into any substantial contribution towards our policing costs at all. So from that perspective, there are going to be resources required to understand this. I don't believe that we have, each of us individually as municipalities, have gotten very transparent reporting from the OPP, which I'm going to be very careful. I think in all of this conversation, we must be very careful. The concern is not with the work that our frontline officers are doing in our communities. They are a vital component of the municipal services that each of us prepare. But this is from a corporate perspective, this is from a provincial perspective, that I am quite dissatisfied with the relationship. And in fact, it does not seem to be an equitable relationship in any sense or fashion. So yes, in answer to your question, I would so move, as I had indicated, that this committee direct staff to research and present advocacy.
Okay, and you're going to second it? Member from Killu, Haggerty, and Richards. Okay.
We would want specific wording. I'm quite convinced that...
can we get specific wording? And again, I don't think I think that county staff have to wait until all of our local tier staff put together exactly what the warden asked for. I cannot, Craig, do you happen to know if AMO sat at the negotiation table? I think it would be a question.
Just trying to remember back,
it was
a number of years ago. You mean the new billing model? That was, it's about 10 years old now, right? The new billing model, give or take, about 10 years ago? I don't...
Madam Chair, are you talking about the new billing model or the negotiated agreement with the OPPA?
The OPPA, sorry.
The latest union contract?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think so.
Okay, so I'll
I'm
ask
clear.
AMO staff
Sure, if you get
tomorrow
in,
if they did, I'll make myself a note. The other thing is, to your point about the OMF, if you can figure out how that formula is calculated, I would love to see it, because I don't know of one person that can figure it out or knows why it increases or decreases year over year. It's the best kept secret in the provincial government, in my opinion. With that, so Gwen, did you have specific, were you back there typing or, no? Okay. Craig, can you lay out the resolution, please?
Yeah.
If I might, Madam Chair, and certainly with sensitivity and deference to staff, what you had suggested of the lower tiers perhaps initiating this, I wonder if this might be better deferred to County Council at the end of this month to give some time to reach some kind of consensus. Right now.
No, I didn't mean that. I just meant that our local staff today will have to forward the warden and myself the information about what our actual increases are, because time is of the essence, because we have Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus and Roma tomorrow.
So and I understand that, and that makes eminent sense, but I'm wondering in terms of setting in motion any action from this municipal corporation, if in fact it should be at the forefront, should be the lower tiers collectively engaging with the county, perhaps as the 18th, and perhaps even the city of Pembroke, that also shares in OPP policing, rather than, as we have all acknowledged, the county does not, this is not within the county's purview, and I think that the county could certainly be prevailed upon to join in the advocacy, but it just strikes me that perhaps it is putting the cart in front of the horse.
I personally would like to see this go forward to County Council this month. I think it's incredibly important, and Peter and I can advocate all day long at our external boards, but I think that the County of Renfrew also has a very strong voice with the province. We're very good at advocacy, and I think using the water and wastewater model, and again, you know, this is a lot more townships that have OPP than have water and wastewater. I think this is incredibly important to get done. And I do believe that we should be including the city of Pembroke, because I can't even imagine what theirs went up. And I absolutely agree with you. I wonder if the city of Pembroke and the town of Renfrew are thinking, what have we done? Why did we get rid of our police force? Go ahead, Craig.
What I'm suggesting is based upon some of the comments that were already in terms of a motion. I think it's in keeping with what the council members have already suggested, is that the Finance and Administration Committee requests the County Council consider the increased cost of OPP billing as a matter of shared advocacy on behalf of the affected local municipalities.
I like it. Are you still moving that?
I will so move, Madam
And you
Chair.
will still second that. Excellent. Any more discussion? All in favor? Excellent. Is there any other new business? I see none. We don't
Just
have a
as a
closed
matter,
meeting.
perhaps on behalf of Councillor Nicholson, of course, a reminder that Taste of the Valley is in Cobden on Saturday. Then this looks like an absolutely spectacular fall weekend coming up. It is the granddaddy of Tastes of the Valley. And it has been a long journey. It has gotten to the point now where everyone is going into the corners on the expressions of interest with the elbows up. It has been a long journey to really solidify the brand of Taste of the Valley. I was in at the start of this, and there were a lot of baby steps to the point where it has become a very, very substantially successful property from a branding perspective, and kudos certainly to the Economic Development Department here at the County of Renfrew. But certainly the granddaddy is Saturday in Cobden.
Thank you. Yes, it is an amazing Taste of the Valley, and it is supposed to be a beautiful weekend. And as Connie pointed out, how amazing that the leaves are finally changing. We were a little late this year. Any other new business? I see none. Can I have, our next meeting is Thursday, November 14th. And may I have a mover and seconder to adjourn, please? Moved by the member from North Algona Wilberforce, second by the member from Brudenell, Lindock, and Raglan. All in favor? And we are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.